it actually got a lot of support. People were like, "Hey, I love your stuff." Like, made me want to write some more. It makes me feel good inside.
Yeah, that was in a way it's a surprise, but in a way it wasn't because you do that occasionally. You'll write something and I know your character combinations or characters are combinations of a number of different people.
Yeah,
And it's a agglomeration of different characters in your life. Sometimes I see myself in there, sometimes I see my dad, sometimes my grandpa's
yeah.
to a
Uh,
smaller extent.
if anybody's curious with what I write, you can always find me. I just made a dedicated Facebook page called the Hashknife Kid. There's a symbol on there that you'll see it. It's got a silhouetted dude leaning against it, which I felt was important. I've always done that. It's always been kind of the men I've looked up to, which is you and Grandpa, and then of course, personal experiences from me coupled with the things I saw with Braden, and I know what Braden experiences. So there's four of us, right?
Yeah, I
And
see
then
your
I
brother in there too. Yep.
and then I grew up with one of my great grandpas, which I knew him lesser to an extent. And to me, I was so little, he was just so grumpy all the time, I felt like, but he was also frustrated with what he was dealing with, which was Parkinson's. And then to an extent, I throw in stuff from my grandfather from your side that's also your maternal grandfather. So the man that I never met, I've heard plenty of stories about. We've got a picture hanging in the ranch house with him. I've seen some pictures, and one of the best compliments I've heard personally, which I know you have had because you shared it with me, but then I again had it a couple years ago, was somebody saw the brand on the hat and they said, "Hey, are you Yates Allen's grandkid?" I'm like, "Nope, I'm the great grandkid. I never met him, but I know about him." And he goes, "He's one of the best cattlemen I ever knew." And it's those things. So the things, all of that coupled together, those six people, you, Grandpa, my brother, and I, and then the two great grandpas on that side, I kind of put them all together. And that's the character I create normally. But this was just personal experience that I put into the insight. So
Yeah, and that was what was different about it. But the funny thing about it is and your writing is always very strong and a very emotional writing. And I
score.
see, but no, and when I read these things, it's things that I've felt myself, but never
Put the
either
word.
talked about or put the word, or
Yeah.
it's just something that yeah, it's what it is. And it's funny because it's on the same pieces of property that I grew up on as a running around out there as a feral little kid,
Yep.
uh, doing things and busting rocks and chasing animals and as I mean just a little guy. Those same emotions come up in your writing, and it's like it's too bad the dad isn't here or my grandpa's because I'll bet you it would touch them in exactly the same way. I there's because of the conversations I've had with them
Yeah.
over the years growing up. I mean, there's no way that it would not affect them emotionally the same way. It has to.